Hey everyone, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. I hope everyone out there is doing excellent. I appreciate everyone for watching the Killing Field series, and honestly, it was a lot of work and I wish I could spend more time out there. I was excited that we found a structure and we did record some audio. I don't think those were cattle or deer just because of the knocking sound that I heard, and it seemed to take place whenever I went back inside around 12:30 or 1 in the morning. So I found that to be unusual just because a lot of researchers say that they'll do one knock on the way in and one knock on the way out. That doesn't always happen, but I have experienced that. And I think it's the Sasquatch communicating with one another that there's a person in the area and to watch out. I rode the Quiet Cat e-bike into the woods and I am enjoying this thing. If anybody's wondering what I think about it, I think it is excellent. I've been able to go very long distances and get into areas that I usually can't get to with all my equipment, and just by the time you walk back there, the day's already over. So it gets me there a lot faster, and one really cool thing about it is I have been able to sneak up on animals, and I found that to be really cool just because the animals don't seem to know what I am when I'm sitting on the bike. It's not until I stand up that the animals will take off. Yesterday, I ran into a barred owl that was just sitting on the side of the road and it flew off across me. I tried to film it, but all I had was my cell phone, and it really made me think, man, I promised myself that I would never go into the woods again without a camera, and here I am going into the woods without a camera. Of course, I have my cell phone, but it just doesn't work that well. The zoom is horrible, and unless the creature is like 5 to 6 feet away from you, you're not going to get a good shot of it. But yeah, we're here today to read some more Bigfoot emails that were submitted by the viewers, and I apologize guys that I haven't been reading them off. I've been doing a lot of phone call interviews and I've been trying to do research, and it's hard to balance all three just because with the channel, some people just like to read emails, some people just like to do interviews, and other channels just like to do research. And when you mix it all up, it's hard to keep a solid fan base just because people are expecting one or the other. But I think a lot of the subscribers that I do have enjoy a mix of the three. So nonetheless, we're going to read some more emails, guys. This story was submitted in by Steve Miller in the Shawnee National Forest. Hello, I have a Sasquatch story that happened during the fall of 2020 at Johnson Creek at Shawnee National Forest land in southern Illinois. Earlier that day, I got out my Bigfoot sounding board and struck it periodically, as there had been some 2 or 3 Sasquatch hunters the previous few nights. As it turns out, they didn't show up that night. Later, about 11 p.m., I heard some owl vocalizations which got closer and closer and eventually came 30 feet from my tent. There may have been at least 3 of them, but no less than 2. They seemed to be having some kind of ritual or was mad that the other Bigfoot might be encroaching on their hunting land, given the wood knocks I was making earlier. Also, I adopted the owl mimicking theory in the summer of 2012 when I was camping on Fish Lake National Park in southern Utah on Indian Creek. The whole side of a large hill was very much alive with owl vocalizations and later began sounding like monkey vocalizations. It seemed like hundreds of monkeys. I also want to add that for about 3 years I had been seeing and photographing prints with various numbers of toes. On one particular time I saw a print that resembled a gorilla. Then within a few inches there were 2 other prints that were obviously human, and I was convinced they were traveling together. The small print I had noticed the summer before, I figured maybe of a 8 or 10-year-old human child, and a medium-sized human print very near to it. Also, I had been seeing UFOs in that area through the summer of 2019, with one UFO seemingly coming in for a landing after a near collision with a military jet. I don't know if this next thing has any significance, but many years ago there was a plane that crashed in that Utah area, Beaver County, Utah, and the only person on board was the pilot that was never found by the search team. No one knows what happened to him or if there were actually more people on that plane that hadn't reported on the flight plan. Furthermore, When the Boy Scouts camped or hiked in the crashed area, they reported strange happenings. Get in touch if you want, but mostly I've had more UFOs than Bigfoot encounters. Sincerely, Stephen Miller. Thank you, Stephen. And yeah, I've heard Bigfoot encounters from the Shawnee National Forest, and there seems to be a lot of stuff going on around the rivers. I hear a lot of Bigfoot activity on the Mississippi River between Missouri and Illinois, and a lot of those areas are pretty populated, but it seems to be a natural travel route for the Sasquatch. And even though there's a lot of people there, there's a lot of food, a lot of water, and a lot of cover. And I think if they've been here for a really long time, that's their land and they're used to migrating in and around the area. Plus, there's a lot of farmland around there, a lot of deer, so I think the Sasquatch like to be in those areas. A lot of people find Indian artifacts in those same areas, so it's hard to say if there's a connection between the Native Americans and the Sasquatch, but yeah, the plane going missing, that's pretty unusual, and I've heard that before, like in the Bermuda Triangle areas, and it's just strange how a plane can go missing and no one can find it. People mention all the time, if there's Bigfoot out there, why don't people see them? People should be finding them, but how do we not find a plane that crashed and it went missing? It's hard to say, guys. That just proves there's a lot of land out there and there's possibly other dimensions that beings will come in and out of, and where people can somehow get lost in the upside down. But yeah, it's a strange thing, guys, and it is happening. There's a lot of missing people and they never get found. So hopefully someone finds an answer for these strange happenings that are going on in and around the United States. But yeah, let's move on to the next Bigfoot email. This email was sent in. Let it load up. This next Bigfoot email was sent in by Mike, and it's called Wrights Lodge Road. I will talk to you only if you do not use my name without permission. Nobody's going to know who you are, Mike. It's going to be all right. I won't use your last name, okay? There's thousands and thousands of Mikes out there, so I'm not worried about it. And if you are, I can take this video down, but I don't think it's a big deal. I grew up 2 miles from St.Clair, Missouri. I went to Catholic school there. My parents had a business there for decades. I grew up on the Merrimack River. I live several hundred miles away now. I have watched some of your videos. If you are not familiar with the Wrights Lodge Road area, you should be. I suspect most of your footage is between Red Horse Access, where the Burbis meets the Merrimack, and a bit west of where Indian Creek joins the Merrimack at Highway K. I am surprised you have not had people report sightings on the Burbis between Rikers Ford and Union, Missouri. The house I grew up in was a relatively short walk from the Burbis off of Highway 47 in the Highway AD area. I honestly haven't heard of that area. I know where St. Clair, where Union is, and the little Indian Creek area, but yeah, I've never heard of that place, and I've honestly never had any reports from that particular spot. By the way, I'm not some ignorant crackpot. I hold a master's degree and I am a trained investigator. I have worked in the justice field for many years and I am a seasoned outdoorsman. I was a scout leader for many years and teach or have taught hunter safety and outdoor skills for over 30 years in 2 states, including Missouri. I have absolutely nothing to gain by speaking up. I am near 60 and have carried what I know for nearly 45 years. All right, so I messaged him back and I said, hello, thank you for sharing. I am somewhat familiar with the area as I live close by. I have been to Little Indian Creek Conservation Area and I have taken reports from the area. I will not give your information out to anyone, and you got my word. You are safe here, and it is just me who runs Sasquatch Theory. I am really looking forward to talking to you about your encounter and experiences. What is a good way to contact you? Thank you for reaching out. And this has been years now, and I never heard back from him, so I'm going to read off this email. guys, you sent it to me, it's public information, and I'm not giving away your last name, your email, anything like that, but I think people that live in those areas deserve to know what's going on. And people contact me all the time and just want to tell me. So that's not really fair to my channel. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to everyone else. So guys, if you send something to my email, I'm going to read it off just because you found me through YouTube, through the work I did, and to keep me private for your own personal gain is not cool. I'm not saying he's trying to gain anything off this, but a lot of people want to get closure. They want to talk to me because they found my channel, and I leave my email out there so I can acquire more Bigfoot encounters and reports, not so it's something that's private and kept between us, okay? All right. His response back was, yes, I am very sorry for not having gotten back to you. Work has been extremely hectic, and to be honest, by the time I get home and get the evening chores taken care of, I go to sleep fairly early. Yes, we do need to talk sometime soon. I'm not sure when that might be, but we need to. For now, let's keep emailing. I work in emergency management, and this is a busy time of year for me. As to a little more background, as I said earlier, growing up between St. Clair and Union, it's accurate to say I spent most of my youth on the Merrimack River. I had an aunt and uncle who lived on Wrights Lodge Road in one of the cabins overlooking the river. I had another aunt and uncle with a farm on the Merrimack near Bourbon, somewhat close to Camel Bridge. My mom's home place was on the Merrimack west of the Highway 19 bridge, and I spent many days and nights on the river and the surrounding hill and valleys hunting, fishing, gigging, canoeing, and camping. I used to know the Merrimack from Merrimack Springs to the confluence with the Burbus like the back of my hand, especially the upper Merrimack. Over the years, there were certain places where you would just feel a presence even if you didn't see or hear anything. And in these places, the woods would sometimes become unusually quiet. All right, sorry guys, the sun was blinding me and I had to move the camera somewhere else. All right, continuing with the story. The area changed since I left, no doubt, but if you drive down Wrights Lodge Road, you come to a bend in the road by that fancy cabin, and you can look out over the valley. The river makes a big bend, and across the river is a big chunk of land that is kind of cut off. I always felt that I was being watched when I crossed the river and went over there. When I was about 19, I spoke with a man doing farm chores over there. He said he didn't like being there because he always felt like he was being watched. Anyway, below that overlook on Wrights Lodge, at the base of the bluff, there used to be a fairly well-defined trail that snakes along the rock face. At times, it would be blocked with big branches and tree trunks when there had been no bad weather. At times, rocks would come out of nowhere, sometimes like they had fallen and sometimes like they had been thrown. At the base of the bluff between the little trail and the riverside fields is a band of very heavy brush and fallen material from the bluff. The field ends where the river gets close to the bluff. There is a farm road that comes off of Wrights Lodge Road and goes left. It runs between the bluff and the river, eventually coming to the field. As you walk down this road and the valley, it opens up and you get a strong feeling of being watched. One summer when I was in college, a buddy and I went squirrel hunting down there. We split up when the valley opened up. He hunted in the trees along the river and I hunted along the base of the bluff. Several times I heard rocks crashing down near me as I walked along. The day got very hot and we eventually met up back at the point where the road entered the field. The first thing he said to me was, "Why the hell are you shaking the trees on the bluff over the point where the river turned back into the bluff?" I told him I hadn't, and he was adamant that I must have. After arguing for a few minutes, we agreed to head toward the far end of the field so he could show me where he had seen trees moving. At that time, the road went through the middle of the field. It was hot, muggy, and mid-afternoon in summer June, I think. We were quite a ways off from the bluff and we'll put into the field when we heard rocks start to fall with some landing far enough out in the field that they had to be thrown. A few minutes later, trees and brush started shaking and swaying violently, where my friend had seen it earlier. We looked and looked with a pair of binoculars I had with me, and finally were able to see more of the base of the tree. It was surrounded by heavy brush, and we kept seeing something black and hairy pushing the base of the tree, shaking it violently. There was no wind at the time. We decided it was a black bear and that we had best go back to my aunt and uncle's and just leave the area. As we walked back, the tree stopped swaying, and we noticed that as we entered the area of the road where the river and bluff were close by, that the woods were unusually still. We spoke of feeling like we were being watched. We took a break on a big rock by the edge of the river. It was a chunk of rock the size of a small house. We sat there quietly and listened, but the woods were still, other than the sound of the water. After a while, my friend looked at me and said, "I don't think that was a bear, and we need to get out of here." In talking about it later, my friend, who was well over 6 feet tall, said whatever it was as tall or taller than he could reach at the shoulder. He based this on the things around it, and I agreed. All we could see was a part of the shoulder and the arm. At the time, my friend and I were both college students and both worked in county government for the court. Both of us had hunted, fished, and been raised in the outdoors all our lives and had law enforcement training. This was not my only encounter close to the Merrimack River. I have also solo hiked and backpacked the central and northern Rockies, parts of the Ozarks, the Black Hills, the Great Plains, and other places, but I will not camp alone in the area or a few other places in the Ozarks. All right, best regards, Mike. Thank you, Mike, for sharing that encounter, and honestly, I don't even know if you shared it, but it's been sitting in my folder for so long, and I took the work to contact you back, save everything, and I just never heard anything. And this is close to me, so it's very important that I get this information out there. If you get upset about it, I apologize, and you shouldn't have reached out to the channel. But if you're okay with it, that's cool. And I think you should be, just because these things move around so much. They're not going to be living in one spot. No one's going to go there and harm these things. And from what it sounds like, it's private land anyway, so people shouldn't be there. But yeah, I think it's important to share these stories. And I've heard the same from one of my friends that used to live out there at Little Indian Creek. His name was Dennis, and I think a lot of people have watched his documentaries that I did with him. He's now passed away, but he talked about the same thing, about trees being shaken and trees being thrown at him with the roots and all. He's had a lot of encounters there, at least over a dozen, and it seemed like the Sasquatch were not very friendly there. They're very territorial, and he claims that they would take his dogs. But yeah, the rock throwing is unusual. I'm not sure if I've ever experienced rock throwing. I possibly have. There was this one time, I talk about this story all the time, where I found this rock circle down at the creek bottom, and whenever I was checking it out, filming it, it seemed like I seen a rock fly across the creek, and it hit this branch, and the branch was swaying back and forth. But yeah, that's the same area where I filmed the rock clacking, and yeah, they're in there, guys. But yeah, if you saw a black hairy creature shaking trees, I doubt it was a bear, especially since you guys went back to the area. I think that's just them trying to scare you out, and I'm glad nothing happened to you guys and you're okay. But yeah, that's a cool encounter, and I'm glad I was able to read it off on the channel, and I think it'll help a lot of people out. So if you didn't want me to read it, I apologize. But again, you never reached back out to me and you ignored me, so you sent it to my email, and it's public information now. So thank you. All right, let's move on to the next Bigfoot email. And let's see, this one was sent in by Jeff Grenfell. Bigfoot in Arizona. Hello, sir. Jeff Grenfell here. Thank you for all of your work. I am 57 years old and a Phoenix native. My grade school coach had a store and a few cabins at the HORSETHEIF Basin, way up in the Bradshaw Mountains near Crown King. I was 11 years old, and a group of kids and the camp counselors left HORSETHEIF Basin to camp. My God, all night we heard the howls, whoops. There were many and many of them. You could hear different distances, directions, ages, male and female. Us kids were like, what the heck can this be? The counselors were petrified. They kept coming up with ridiculous excuses. Oh, it's drunk people. I have also seen the tracks in fresh snow. First in Oracle, Arizona, which is in the Santa Catalina Mountains where Mount Lemons is near Tucson. I had family who lived there, and I always liked to explore. I would get up early and explore everywhere by myself. When I saw the footprints and told my family, nobody believed me. Then I was in my mid-20s hiking near Silver City, New Mexico with my mother and my 2 aunts. We all saw the same tracks in the snow. I said, do you guys remember when I was 11 and saw the gigantic footprints in the snow? And nobody believed me? We all darted like rabbits back down to the car. I wanted to talk about it. My mother and my aunts did not want to talk about it. All I can think my whole life is, why won't people talk about it? Why does everybody think it's crazy? They are obviously out there. All right, Jeff, I really appreciate you for reaching out and sharing your encounters with all of us. And you were very positive about it. And yeah, I really want to thank you. I have heard a lot of reports from Arizona where people find tracks. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I guess maybe there's a lot of sand, possibly a lot of snow if you're up in the mountains. And I've never been to the areas that you're talking about, but I have received reports from other people in those areas, and they're certainly there. Yeah, it's a strange thing that people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it. And I've heard the same vocalizations out at my friend Bill's place in the Mark Twain National Forest. And yeah, it sounds like a bunch of monkeys hollering and whooping. And sometimes they sound like coyotes, but then it transitions into something that's just so much deeper, louder, and you can hear the different groups communicating from valley to valley. And I just think they do that, like once it gets dark, they all come out and they try to find each other, because they're not all in the same place. Like they all split off into different areas, and they try to regroup at nighttime, possibly to go hunting or terrorizing people. But yeah, we ask people in those areas, hey, have you ever heard anything? And we tell them what we heard, and people are just like, no, I've never heard anything. I've been out here my whole life and have never heard anything. My friend Bill's like, how do you not hear that? How do you not hear what's going on out here? You live out here. And we don't know if it's just people not wanting to talk about it openly and they just deny it, or if they just really shrug it off, which could be the case. But honestly, it's kind of annoying, because what we heard out there in the Mark Twain National Forest was no animal that should exist out there according to science, the government, conservation. Yeah, these vocalizations go along with trees getting pushed down, limbs being broken, loud wood knocks, and sightings. You know, people have sightings out there. So once you see one of these creatures, how are you going to think it's an owl or a coyote? Especially when they're coming up to the house and you're hearing the vocalizations in that same time frame. It just doesn't make sense, but I think just a lot of people look the other way and they don't want to bring any attention to themselves, but they know what it is. But yeah, guys, it's getting kind of cold out here. I did have a 4th email, but it didn't make any sense, and there's no way I can just rewrite that. So we're going to keep it at 3 different emails, and I appreciate the viewers for sending in the reports, for everybody who watches Sasquatch Theory, and the people that support the channel. Here recently, all of my stats have just dropped. It doesn't matter how many videos I make, how much you guys watch, the stats just keep dropping. And when I try to contact YouTube, they don't have an answer for me. They just send me to like the Google Help Center, and it just has like generic answers. And whenever I have really good points to make, they deny it. For example, a lot of people have mentioned in the comments that they're being unsubscribed. It's not just like one person, 10 people, 20 people. I have read like over 100 comments where people say they're mysteriously being unsubscribed, they're not getting notified, and it's just unusual. YouTube did say you won't get notified if you're already subscribed to more than 3 channels. So you're only going to get notified of 3 different channels and in one day. But yeah, that makes sense. But people mysteriously being unsubscribed from the channel is not right. Me making 2 to 3 videos a week and my stats just going down, and yeah, I'm basically making 0 off the channel now. So this is going to be really tough. I'm going to have to find a side job and try to manage the channel, probably 1 video a week. But my goal for right now is to pump out as many videos as possible, try to get the stats back up so I can keep driving out to my research areas, keep buying equipment, and keep paying all my subscriptions like Photoshop, Canva, Microsoft. There's a ton of subscriptions, guys. The Starlink internet, and it's just going to be hard to manage everything if there's no support from YouTube for doing all this work, because I don't know, guys. When you put a lot of work into something, you put your heart and soul, you expect something back. And it's not that I want to make money off of your guys' Bigfoot encounters. That's not what it is. But when you run something like this, it costs a lot of money, guys. There's just a lot of cameras that need to be bought, batteries, SD cards, a lot of equipment that breaks, and I'm trying to advance. I'm trying to get more things so I can go to more places, but it just sucks because if the channel falls off the map, I'm not going to be able to go to everybody's place that's hours away and do all this research for nothing. I'm going to have to be working, guys. And I know a lot of people are saying, good, I'm glad that's happening to you. But I'm not. I put a lot of work into this, and I put my heart and soul to it. And I believe the good Lord's watching out over me, and He's the only reason this channel's possible. So I'm putting my faith in Him, and I'm just going to believe that something good will come out of this, and we'll possibly find something good. One thing that'll really help out the channel is acquiring more video documentaries of people telling their encounters in person on film. And there's been a lot of people that have reached out in the past, but they just ghost me. It's just like, why reach out, communicate with me for a long time just to ghost me? And yeah, you guys just got to be sure when you reach out, like, do you really want to do this? Is this something you really want to do? Because it takes a lot of time to communicate with people. It's not just you. There's a lot of people that I'm talking to, and it takes up a lot of my time in the day to communicate with 10 people at the same time that are texting nonstop, calling nonstop. And when you fall off the map, that kind of leaves me high and dry. But what can I do? I can't force people to tell their encounters, and it's hard. If I had a team, we could go to other states, but it's scary just because if I commit to flying to another state, like, is the person just going to quit communicating with me when I get there? Are they not going to pick me up from the airport? Or if I get there, are they going to say, oh, I decided not to tell my story, but we can still hang out and do research? Like, that kind of stuff happens all the time. And I'm sure like the Small Town Monsters crew has probably experienced that, where they fly out to an area and the person doesn't show up or isn't willing to talk about it, which is very annoying. I've interviewed people in the past that are like, yeah, I'm definitely willing to tell my story. I'm going to tell my encounter. And I drive hours to meet them out there, and they're like, oh, I don't want to be on camera. That's really hard, guys. But I mean, what do you do? Get angry? Can't really get angry, but I do want to say that Bigfoot and Sasquatch theory does not revolve around you. It's not all about you, okay? There's a lot of people out there, a lot of people wanting to send reports, and there's a lot of people that contact me telling me they have the most amazing story ever. And I try to set up a phone call, and I keep trying, and all it turns into is just communication every day with that person and just talking about personal things in their lives, and they're just looking for a buddy. They're not really wanting to tell their story. So eventually I have to distance myself from those people, and I don't know, it probably hurts their feelings, but I can't just text somebody nonstop about Bigfoot that has nothing to do with the channel. But yeah, no hard feelings, guys, but I'm trying to run a channel here and I'm trying to get these encounters out there so other people will speak up. And when people hear an encounter from their area, they want to speak up too. So when you decide not to talk or you get cold feet, that keeps other people from speaking up. And then you got to think of all the time that I spent talking to you. I didn't do anything. I wasn't video editing. I wasn't talking to other people. And in the end, I get nothing. So you guys have to consider that. All right. It's okay. I'm not mad, but I just want to make that known that there are a lot of time wasters out there and a lot of people who have a big talk and no walk. But it's all right, guys. I put my stories out there on the line. I talk about Bigfoot all the time. Nobody's shown up here. There's no government agency that's contacted me. There's no sheriff that's shown up to my house saying, you're not allowed to talk about this. Keep quiet. Nobody does that. If anything, I've had sheriffs tell their own encounters on my channel. I've had government employees tell their stories on my channel. I've had brave people who are in the military talk about entities that they've seen trying to break into bases. So they're brave enough to tell their story. They're okay. I still see them in the comments. They haven't come like back to me saying, oh, something really bad happened. Somebody showed up threatening my life. Like, that's never happened. Even with David and Linda at the killing fields, like, their first video has almost 1 million views and they've never had anybody strange show up, anybody like trespassing, other than like for deer hunting, but they're surrounded by public land. So of course people are going to trespass on their land, but they haven't had like anybody out there threatening them, like not to talk about Bigfoot. But yeah, like I said, with the YouTube channel, it's kind of demoralizing that a video can get 20,000 views in one day and the next day nothing, and then all the stats drop from there. And then I put out more and more videos to try to raise up the stats and just nothing's happening. YouTube's answer was that I'm not making popular videos, but I disagree. I think a lot of people like what I'm doing, and I hear it from people all the time all over the world. So I want you guys to know that they are suppressing this information. They don't want this kind of information getting out there. And it's not even just about Bigfoot. Like, I've heard that happen with hunting and fishing channels, and their answer to that is it's violent. A fish getting hooked and released back in the water is violence and animal cruelty. But seeing people get blown up in Russia in shorts and on videos, that's not violence. It's okay to promote people dying and being hurt. And it's okay that, I'm not even going to mention it, but the things that are going on in America, what they're doing to our children, that's okay. But I can't talk about Bigfoot. It's a sad world we live in, and a lot of people don't want to hear this, but the Bible talks about it, that in these days of the Son of Man, the world will be wicked in the same way and sense that it was during the time of Noah. And I think we're seeing that today. We don't have the option of deciding whether we want to believe in evolution or the Bible like it was whenever I was a kid. Both were taught in school and they kind of gave us a choice. Nowadays, they threw away the Bible and people have no morals anymore, and they have no accountability for their actions, which is what we're seeing today with all the violence and our rights being taken away. People have no moral accountability for the things that they do, and it's not okay, guys. That's why in the old days, you know, you would be judged for what you did, and that's why we have like jails and court systems, is for that same reason, to keep people in line. And it's just a sad world we live in. Obviously, we're going to have different opinions about the Bible, spirituality, and what's going on in the world today. But I'm not going to say what side I'm on, but it is sad that a lot of people are on the wrong side, and they're blindly following the wrong people. They think because of what they see on the news and the media, that is the truth, and they blame everything that's going on certain individuals in the past that have tried to help us out. I'm not going to say their name, but yeah, a lot of people are blind, And yeah, if you want to follow a leader that can't even finish a sentence, that's okay, but I'm not going to. And a lot of people don't see the truth, which is very sad. Even people that I'm friends with, people that have been on the channel, they don't follow the right people. And I think you're never going to know what's truly going on until you open your eyes. But yeah, I'm not bringing politics into the channel. And I know this is a long rant, but the rants are needed sometimes. A lot of people get in my comments and say, oh, I don't want to listen to How to Hunt anymore because he's always complaining about the government and he's always going off on these rants. You know what? Somebody has to. Somebody has to stand up and speak up because a lot of people aren't doing it. And that's why the world is turning into what it is today, because no one's speaking up. So Steve from How to Hunt, I really appreciate you for standing up for what is right and calling these people out. And for the people that get tired of hearing that, I'm sorry, but it needs to be said, and it needs to be said over and over and over, because if not, no one's going to stand up for our rights, and the same thing is going to continue happening in our world. So yeah, I want to give a big shout out to Steve from How to Hunt. You're awesome, and I really appreciate your videos, the way you share the stories, your theories and thoughts about Sasquatch, and what you have to say about the government and our leaders. It is very true what you say, and I hope more people can see that. But yeah, guys, those are the emails for today. Those are my complaints for today, but it is what it is. And I appreciate every single one of you for watching the channel and supporting Sasquatch Theory, and for all the people that had super positive things to say in the comments. Man, you guys are awesome. I wouldn't know, I don't know what I'd do without you guys. And I thank God every day that I have you guys in my life, that you guys watch the videos. And yeah, I just pray that the channel doesn't fall off the map. And I'm never going to stop doing the channel. I'm just going to have to slow down on videos. But in my mind, that's not going to happen. I'm going to keep this channel going. We're going to keep the encounters going some way or another. And it's not about money. It's about keeping the research going, guys. So I want you to understand that. And if there was money to be made, I'd be driving a brand new truck. I'd have an awesome house, but I don't, guys. I don't. And I'm lucky that I've had family that's there to help me and support me. And I'm not afraid to admit it. I don't know what I'd do without them, and I don't know what I'd do without you guys, but I know I'd find a way no matter what. And yeah, if you guys have an encounter that you would like to share, maybe you want to do an interview in person, let me know. I'm willing to drive to Illinois, Arkansas, Iowa, Oklahoma, Kansas, and possibly like Colorado, Tennessee. So that's not too bad. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for your support, for watching these videos. And if you think they suck, that's okay. And if you really enjoy them, I appreciate you. But until the next one, guys, take care, everyone. Be safe, and watch your back, because you never know where you might see a Sasquatch.